southern interior, it has unleashed destructive floods, the worst in 70 years.
The city of Grand Forks was the hardest hit of 24 communities that declared states of emergency over the last few days. It sits where the Granby and Kettle Rivers meet, and both are expected to surge again.
These are the sandbags from 2020. This is way bigger than just the Grand Forks flood of 2018. This is something that's BC-wide, and it's going to have long-term consequences. When I saw what was happening to the community in 2018, when I saw friends and neighbors and the shock that they were going through, I thought this is a story that needs to be told. So within a few days, I started filming a documentary. So can you tell me how you felt when you first saw this?
I was just devastated.
And then I thought, well, if I'm going to make a documentary, if I'm going to tell our stories, I'd better find out what was the cause of the flood. I assumed, like a lot of people, that the BC government was taking care of our forests in a sustainable way. I had lived in the Slocan Valley and I knew that they were logging, but I traveled mostly on the main roads, so I didn't see the extensive clear cuts. The winter of 2017-2018, there was high snowpack in the mountains above here in our watershed, and we also had a lot of heat in April of 2018. So there was sort of a combination of factors, but people in town who are loggers started telling me that it's the clear-cut logging in our watershed. A watershed is all the streams and landforms and the underground water flow that flows into a drainage basin. Our drainage basin is the Granby and the Kettle River, and our watershed is 8,000 square kilometers of forests. When those trees are removed from the landscape, when they're clear cut off the landscape, there just isn't enough trees and vegetation and intact forests to hold the water the way it used to.
What's happening in the boundary country is scary. It scared the hell out of me because there's nobody looking after it. They're just running it into the ground.
Somebody referred me to Huu-ay-aht, who's a forest ecologist living in the Slocan Valley. So he was generous enough to do an interview with me.
If you fly over the Kettle River watershed, you're left with your mouth hanging open. It's incredible the amount of clear-cut logging that has occurred there. What happens in this watershed now, in those clear cuts and young forests, up until the time they're probably 70 or 80 years old, most of that precipitation that used to be moved across this landscape, that stays put as snow. And in the spring, because it's directly exposed to sunlight, it melts about 30% faster. So you have 30% deeper snowpacks that melt 30% faster. That creates spring floods and fall droughts.
We've had greater than average flooding here in the past 3 out of 4 years. And it's a combination. Yeah, climate change is a contributor. Climate change isn't going away. Clear-cut forestry is the one factor that we can actually control. We can't control how much snow is coming down. We can't control how hot it's going to get here in April, but we can control how many trees we're taking off the landscape.
We're looking at a severe cut block. This block is roughly 1,200 and some odd hectares. What you have here now is no retention, and hence you're going to get lots of floods and lots of silt and gravel and sand in the watersheds. Yeah, that's pretty massive, eh? It's like one guy says, it's Armageddon.
Industrial forestry, the way we do it, is completely incompatible with maintaining water quality, quantity, and timing of flow. There's no way around that.
It's not that we're anti-logging. The point is that we want our forests to be managed in a different way, so that we're still, as a community, reaping economic benefits, but we're not doing so much damage.
At times, firefighters had to swim through the water, polluted with toxic chemicals and sewage.
Oh my goodness.
This is the first time Kyle and Jaylee Piper have seen inside the home where they lived with their 11-year-old daughter.
My daughter's room's destroyed.
This is the neighborhood of North Ruckle, and it was hit really hard by the flood. All of this neighborhood, there's about 100 houses total that are being demolished and making way for flood infrastructure. So about 100 people, about 100 families had to find new places to live.
It's like somebody come along and hit you with a baseball bat in the side of the head. I mean, it's a shock, right? And you go down on your knees. What do? I got no more house. I got a mortgage to pay, and they're tearing down my house.
The city received about a $50 million package, including funding from the federal and provincial governments. It's for flood mitigation and home buyouts, but it's under the condition that the homes are assessed at what they're worth after the floods, which in many cases isn't very much. In Watson's case, her property was valued at $150,000 before the flood hit.
Well, they're only offering me $40,000. That's a $110,000 loss. I don't have another 25 years to do it all over again.
I got flooded again in the spring of 2020, even though once again I was prepared. I had sandbagged my house, but I got a few inches of water in there. So going through flooding 3 times in 4 years, the emotional impact, it was traumatizing. I've had a lot of nights where I cry myself to sleep, where I felt incredibly alone, and I'm tired. I'm exhausted, and I'm at the point now where I just want to move on. It's not a good feeling to be leaving here. It's not a good feeling to feel like I've been forced to leave. I'm really gonna miss Stan and the friends that I've made here. This whole thing was completely avoidable. All of the pain that the people have been through, the cause of it is greed. It's just downright greed over the decades. What's driving me and what's keeping me hopeful in a big way is the connections and the solidarity that I've experienced. It really does make me hopeful when I talk to loggers and union reps who say, yeah, we need this change. We're all seeing it and we're all going to start to work together. I would like the legislation in forestry to be changed so that the #1 priority is ecosystem health. Right now, the #1 priority is corporate profits, because that's who benefits right now. That needs to switch to ecosystem health, and that's going to protect the people as well. The other thing that I would like to see is that there's a decentralization of decision making when it comes to forests, and that people who live in the frontline communities have some decision making power around the management of the forests. And of course that includes Indigenous people too. Indigenous communities have to be able to have a say in what's happening on the land. Everybody in local communities needs to start to come together. We need to shift the conversation. Loggers and environmentalists need to start talking to each other and realizing that we're all aiming for the same things. We've got to move forward. We've got to move ahead. Our lives depend on it.